I still remember how I felt at Marcus's funeral. It was very hard to breathe. The chapel was filled with friends and family members. Their whispers created a loud noise. I wasn't able to hear them all. Daniel Cortez, Marcus's coworker from the engineering firm, was watching me during the funeral. He stood in the back row, partly hidden by a column. His eyes were fixed on me with an intensity that made skin crawl. At that moment, I recalled Marcus's warning from months ago, delivered almost casually at dinner. If anything ever happens to me, stay away from Daniel. He's got a weird obsession on you. It's not healthy. Now staring at Daniel's unblinking eyes across the funeral home, those words echoed in my mind like a warning I should have listened. In the weeks after Marcus's death, I was alone in our home. I couldn't stand being there. Every corner held a memory that twisted like a knife in my chest. The couch where we watched movies on Friday nights. The kitchen table where he proposed. The bedroom we shared for 6 years. I threw it all out. Furniture, photos, and memories with them. That's when Daniel started showing up. At first, it felt like a coincidence. I was at the coffee shop on Maple Street, staring blankly at menu I couldn't focus on, and suddenly he had appeared. "Let me get that for you," he said. His hand was already reaching for his wallet. His smile was gentle and concerned. I was too exhausted and broken to question it. He became a presence I didn't ask for but slowly got used to, a familiar face in my chaotic grief. Someone who seemed to understand without my explanation. 3 weeks after the funeral, I found myself sitting across from him at that coffee shop again. He listened while I talked about Marcus. He didn't offer empty words or look uncomfortable when I cried. For 2 hours, I felt almost normal, almost human again. But when I got home that night and collapsed on my bed, reality hit me like ice water. I started to think, how did he always know where I was? I pulled out my phone and scrolled back through the past 3 weeks, trying to understand every encounter. The coffee shop on Maple, the grocery store on Fifth Avenue, the park near my home, the bookstore. My hands started shaking as the pattern became undeniable. "Oh God!" I whispered into the darkness of my bedroom. Marcus was right. Daniel wasn't just being supportive. He was hunting me. I had been too shattered, too vulnerable, and too desperate for human connection to see it. Worse, I had given him hope. That coffee shop conversation, me laughing at his jokes, opening about my pain. He must understood them as a romantic interest. I felt sick and stupid. That night, I made a promise. I would reclaim my life. I wouldn't let fear control me, and I wouldn't let Daniel Cortez manipulate me anymore. The next morning, I went to Mason's Market, my usual grocery store. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe those encounters were coincidences. Maybe grief was making me see patterns where none existed. I reached for a box of honey when I feel an eye on me. Someone was watching me. I turned slowly, scanning the aisle. At first, I saw nothing unusual. Just a woman comparing yard labels, an elderly man shuffling past with cane. Then I caught movement. Daniel, 2 aisles over, partly obscured by a display of canned tomatoes, staring directly at me. Our eyes met for a brief of a moment, before he jerked his head away, suddenly fascinated by a jar of pasta sauce. My heart began hammering against my ribs. "Stay calm," I told myself. "Don't let him know where you have seen through him." I forced myself to continue shopping, moving to the pasta aisle with deliberate casualness. Within 30 seconds, Daniel appeared at the far end, pretending to examine boxes of spaghetti. He picked one up, studied the nutrition label with absurd intensity, then set it back down. His eyes kept flickering toward me. I moved to the international food section. He followed. I turned into the baking aisle. He showed up moments later, suddenly interested in different brands of vanilla extract. It was a disturbing dance, me trying to shop while he shadowed me every move, maintaining this absurd charade of coincidence. The final straw came in the dairy section. I reached for a carton of eggs and saw his reflection in the glass refrigerator doors. He was about 10 feet behind me, holding a container of Greek yogurt, turning it over while his eyes remained locked on me. Our eyes met in the reflection. For a heartbeat, he froze out. Something dark crossed his face, quickly replaced by panic. Then he ducked behind a promotional display of artisan cheese. Moving so abruptly, he knocked over an entire pyramid of shredded mozzarella packages. They tumbled to the floor while pretending to help clean them up. I couldn't breathe or think. Every instinct screamed at me to run. I abandoned my cart in an aisle and walked straight to the exit. My legs trembling so badly I thought I might collapse. Emma, wait! His voice behind me sent pure adrenaline through my system. I walked faster. Emma, hold on. I could hear his footsteps quickening. I broke into a run, bursting through the automatic doors and racing toward my car. My hands shook so violently I could barely get the key fob to work. When the locks finally clicked open, I threw myself inside and immediately hit the lock button. Through the windshield, I saw Daniel emerge from the store, scanning the parking lot. When his eyes found my car, he walked toward me. Emma, he tapped on my window. Hey, fancy running into you here. I thought maybe we could grab lunch and catch up. I started the engine and threw the car into reverse without responding, barely checking my mirrors. His face shifted from friendly confusion to something darker, almost rage before I sped away. From that day on, I avoided Mason's Market entirely. I started shopping at stores across town, changing my routes and schedule. But Daniel adopted. He showed up Brewhaven, a coffee shop I had visited only once before, then at Daily Grind on the other side of the city. Each time, he sat by the window with a newspaper or laptop, as if he just happened to be there. The encounters increased, 3 times a week, then daily, sometimes multiple times per day. I stopped going to coffee shops altogether. 6 weeks after Marcus's funeral, after a rough day of sorting through insurance paperwork and crying myself into exhaustion, I found myself at Corner Coffee House at 9 p.m. I just needed to be somewhere that wasn't my apartment, somewhere with other people and warm lighting and the comfortable buzz of human activity. I should have known better. I was staring into my untouched cappuccino, tears sliding down my cheeks as I scrolled through old photos of Marcus on my phone, when a chair scraped across from me. Emma? Daniel's voice was soft and concerned. When I looked up through blurred vision, his expression was gentle and genuinely worried, and something in me cracked. You look like you are carrying the weight of the world, he said quietly. I know we keep running into each other, and I don't want to intrude, but you look like you could really use a friend right now. I should have told him to leave. Should have walked out. Should have done anything but nod and gesture to the empty chair. But I was so tired of being alone. We talked for 3 hours. He listened. As I poured out my grief about Marcus, how every morning I still reached for his side of the bed and accidentally set the table for the two. I kept forgetting he was gone. I would turn to tell him something and then remember. Daniel didn't offer empty sayings. He didn't tell me time would fix everything or Marcus would want me to move on. He just listened. That somehow made all the difference. When he suggested we continue our conversation somewhere quieter and more private, alarm bells went off in my head. But they were quiet compared to the loneliness that had become my constant companion. Okay, I heard myself say, but just for a little while. His apartment was modest but spotless. Minimalist furniture, clean lines, everything was in order. Too orderly, some distant part of my brain noted. It was like a showroom. He poured us some wine. I sat on his leather couch, the glass warm in my hands, and felt some of the tension leave my shoulders. It must have been an incredibly difficult few months, he said, settling into a chair across from me. The dam broke. I told him everything. The guilt I felt for surviving when Marcus didn't. The anger at the drunk driver who had killed him. The crushing weight of trying to figure out who I was without my husband. And the same feeling that I felt for even being here, drinking wine with another man. The shame. That's completely understandable, Daniel said, and I was surprised to hear genuine emotion in his voice. You know, I saw something really special between you and Marcus. The way he talked about you at work, it was clear he adored you. Tears streamed down on my face. I keep replaying that last morning. If I had just asked him to stay home, to call in sick, if I had told him to take a different route. Emma stopped. Daniel leaned forward, and before I could react, his hand closed around mine. I flinched, but he held firm, not painfully, but with purpose. Grief isn't linear. It's messy and complicated. There is no right or wrong way to feel it. He looked directly into my eyes. He's intense and steady. I know how much you loved Marcus, but he's gone. You are still here. At some point, you have to take care of yourself. Something in his words and his touch made me feel seen for the first time in months. Not Marcus's widow, not as a broken thing to be pitied, but as a person who was hurting and needed comfort. Thank you, I whispered. You have no idea how much I needed to hear that. We talked for hours more, drank all wine in the bottles. We started to sit closer and closer. Then, before I understood what was happening, we were kissing. It escalated quickly and desperately. Two broken people seeing comfort in a physical connection. His hands in my hair, mine clutching his shirt. The urgent need to feel something other than grief. We ended up in his bedroom, and for a brief moment, I forgot about everything except the sensation of being wanted, being held, being alive. But when dawn broke and reality seeped back in through the curtains, I felt sick. I had betrayed Marcus, betrayed his memory, betrayed everything we had built together. I need to go, I said, scrambling for my clothes. Daniel sat up, his expression unreadable. Emma, wait. This was a mistake, I said, unable to look at him. I'm still grieving Marcus. I can't do this. I'm sorry, but I just can't. His face darkened for just a moment, a flash of something cold and angry. Then his smile returned, but it didn't reach his eyes. I understand, he said softly. We can make this slow. There is no rush. No, you don't understand, I insisted, pulling on my shoes. This can't happen again. I am not ready. I might never be ready. Sure, he said, but there was a strange certainty in his voice that might made my skin crawl. Whatever you need. I practically ran from his apartment and didn't look back. But Daniel didn't let it go. The letters started arriving 3 days later. The first one was tucked under my windshield wiper, written in neat, careful handwriting. Dear Emma, I know you are scared and confused right now. But what we have is real. What we shared was beautiful. I will wait for you as long as it takes. D. Then the gift started. Flowers on my doorstep, always my favorites, peonies, which I had never told him about. Chocolates from a boutique shop I had mentioned to Marcus years ago. A silver locket with our initials engraved inside. I never opened it. Just looking at it made me sick. The worst incident happened at work 3 weeks after that terrible night. I was in the middle of presenting quarterly projections to the senior management team, 15 people seated around the glass-walled conference room. All eyes on me and my PowerPoint presentation. Through the transparent walls, I saw movement in the lobby. My heart dropped into my stomach. Daniel stood there, holding an enormous bouquet of red roses, wearing a suit as if he had already dressed for the occasion. When he spotted me through the glass, his face lit up and gave me an enthusiastic wave. I felt my face flush with embarrassment and anger. I gave him a firm shake of my head and small hand gesture that I hoped conveyed I was working and to go. But instead of leaving, Daniel sat down in the lobby waiting area, settling in as if he had all the time in the world. The roses rested across his lap like a child he was cradling. I stumbled through the rest of my presentation, hyper aware of his presence just outside the room. My boss, Janet, kept giving me concerned looks. Several colleagues followed my distracted gaze to the lobby, whispering among themselves. The meeting felt like it lasted a century. When it finally ended, I gathered my materials with shaking hands and walked out to face him. Better to handle this quickly and quietly than let it escalate. Daniel was on his feet the moment he saw me, his smile wide and expectant. "Surprise!" he said, thrusting the roses toward me. "I thought you might like cheering up. Want to grab lunch? There's a great Thai place 2 blocks over." I took the flowers because refusing them seemed like it would create an even bigger scene. My coworkers were definitely watching now. "Daniel, I'm incredibly busy today," I said, keeping my voice low and controlled. "I have back-to-back meetings. I appreciate the gesture, but I really can't step out right now." His smile faltered. "Come on, Emma. It's just lunch. An hour tops. You have to eat anyway, right?" "I really can't," I insisted, trying to hand the flowers back to him. "Maybe another time." "You always say that." His voice took an harder edge. "Maybe another time, maybe another time. But that time never comes, does it?" "Daniel, please," I said. "I came all the way across the city for you," he said, his voice rising. Several heads turned in our direction. "I bought you flowers. I have been nothing but supportive and patient, and you can't even spare 1 hour for me." "It's not like that," I said, aware of my coworkers pretending not to watch this train wreck unfold. "This project is really important, and I have a genuine meeting scheduled." "It's always something with you," he cut me off, stepping closer. His eyes had gone cold. "I have tried so hard to be there for you, to help you through your grief, to show you that life can still be good, but you keep pushing me away." "I'm not pushing you away," I said. Though that was exactly what I was trying to do. "I just can't do this right now. Can we please talk about this later, in private?" "Private?" he repeated bitterly. "Right, because you are ashamed to be seen with me here. That's what this is really about, isn't it?" "That's not," I said. "Forget it," he snapped, snatching the roses back from my hands. Several petals fluttered to the floor. "I don't know why I bothered. You are clearly not ready to let anyone in. Maybe you never will be." He stormed out, leaving me standing in the lobby with my face burning and my coworkers staring. My colleague Sarah approached cautiously. "Are you okay? Do you need me to call security?" "I'm fine," I lied. "Just a misunderstanding." But I wasn't fine. Daniel's behavior was escalating in ways that terrified me. That weekend, I drove to the country scout house with a folder full of evidence. Inside were printouts of every text message Daniel had sent me, photos of the gifts left on my doorstep, and copies of letters. I also included a written statement from Sarah and 2 coworkers who witnessed the incident in the lobby. The clerk handed me a stack of forms for a restraining order. I filled them carefully, noting every incident I could recall. The grocery store, the coffee shops, the workplace confrontation. When my case was called, I stood before Judge Catherine Morrison and shared everything. My hands trembled as I spoke, but I maintained a steady voice. "He follows me everywhere," I explained. "He has shown up at my workplace, at stores, at coffee shop around the city. He leaves gifts and letters. He gets more aggressive when I try to set boundaries. Do you have evidence of direct threats? George Madison asked while looking through my documents. Not explicit threats, but his behavior. Has he threatened you verbally? Made any comments suggesting he intends to harm you? No, not in those exact words, but has he tried to enter your home without your permission? Physically assaulted you? Made any gestures that suggest violent intent? My heart sank. No, but he's clearly stalking me. He knows my schedule, my routine. I'm afraid of he might do this in continuous. Judge Morrison sighed sympathetically. Miss Walsh, I understand your concern. I don't doubt that this behavior is distressing. However, based on the evidence presented, I can't see a pattern that meets the legal requirement for a restraining order. Without explicit threats or acts of violence, I am unable to take action. But he is stalking me, I said, hearing the desperation in my voice. He shows up everywhere I go. He won't leave me alone. I know, I'm sorry, but the law requires concrete evidence of imminent danger. What I can do is document your complaint. If his behavior escalates further, if he makes any direct threats or tries to contact you after you have told him to stop, come back with that evidence, and we can revisit this. I left the courthouse feeling hollow. The system that was supposed to protect me had failed. I was on my own. The messages started to change after that. Where they had once been desperate and pleading, they now had the darker tone. You can run from this all you want, but you can't run from destiny. We were meant to be together, Emma. Why can't you see that? I know you better than anyone. I know what you need, even when you don't. One night I woke the sound of the glass shattering downstairs. For a moment, I lay frozen in the bed, hoping I had imagined it. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe the wind had knocked something over. Then I heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate footsteps moving through my kitchen. Terror flooded my system. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand with shaking hands and ran to the bathroom, the only room with a lock. I twisted the deadbolt and pressed myself against the wall, fumbling to dial 911. 911? What's your emergency? Someone's in my house, I whispered, barely able to speak. Someone broke in. Please send help. Please. Okay, ma'am, what is your address? I gave it to her. My voice was shaking. Please hurry. He is inside. I can hear him. Officers are on the way. Stay on the line with me. Where are you now? Locked in the bathroom. Emma! Daniel's loud and angry voice came from right outside the bedroom door. I screamed, Open this door! He pounded on it with such force that the hinge rattled. We need to talk. We are meant to be together. Why can't you understand that? Ma'am? The operator's voice was urgent. Ma'am, are you there? He's right outside, I sobbed. He's trying to get in. Help is 3 minutes away. Stay where you are. Do not open that door, police said. We could be so good together, Daniel screamed, slamming against the door. The wood cracked. I have done everything for you. I have been patient. I have been kind. Why don't you just let me back? I can't, I cried out. Please just leave me, please. No! Another impact against the door. Something splintered. Not until you see reason. Not until you understand that we belong together. Marcus is dead, Emma. I'm here. I'm alive. I am the one who loves you. The pounding continued, mixed with his increasingly unhinged shouting. I curled into a ball on the bathroom floor. The phone pressed to my ear, praying the door would hold. Then suddenly the noise stopped. Footsteps retreated quickly. A door slammed. In the distance I heard sirens. Ma'am, officers are pulling up to your residence now. It is safe to come out. But I couldn't move. I couldn't stop shaking. I couldn't process what had just happened. The police found me 20 minutes later, still curled on the bathroom floor, unable to speak. They caught Daniel 4 blocks away. He was dishevelled, wide-eyed, and carrying a hunting knife with a 7-inch blade. What they found during the investigation made my blood run cold. In his apartment, detectives discovered a notebook, a thick leather-bound journal filled with pages about me, my daily routines documented in obsessive details, my favorite coffee order, the route I took to work, and what time I turned off my lights at night. There were maps, detailed floor plans of my house with entry points marked, photos, dozens of them taken without my knowledge. Me grocery shopping, me at work, me in my own home, visible through windows, and in black duffel bag in his car. Zip ties, duct tape, rope, and the hunting knife. The detective who interviewed me as straightforward, Miss Walsh. Based on what we found, we believe he was planning an abduction. Possibly worse. If you hadn't locked yourself in that bedroom, if we hadn't gotten there when we did, she didn't need to finish. Daniel Cordes was charged with breaking and entering, stalking, attempted kidnapping, and possession of burglary tools. The evidence was overwhelming. His public defender tried to argue mental illness, but the meticulous planning outlined in that notebook told a different story. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison. I thought I would feel relief, closure, safety. Instead, I felt numb. For months, I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me jump. Every stranger made me flinch. I installed a security system and changed my locks 3 times. I even considered buying a gun. Eventually, I moved to a different city. I started over with a new job, new apartment, new routines. I went to therapy twice a week, working through the trauma, the grief, the guilt. The guilt was the hardest part. I had ignored Marcus's warning. I let Daniel manipulate me when I was vulnerable. I had slept with him, given him hope, and allowed him to believe there was something between us. My therapist, Dr. Chen, was patient but firm. You were a grieving widow who made human decisions. You are not responsible for his choices. You are not responsible for his obsession. You were a victim, Emma. It took 2 years for me to fully accept that. Now, 3 years later, I'm starting to feel like myself again. I have learned to trust my instincts, set boundaries, and recognize red flags. I prioritize my safety over politeness of others. I've learned that grief can make you vulnerable in ways you never expect. Predators can sense that vulnerability. Sometimes kindest people hide the darkest intentions. Marcus was right about Daniel. I wish I had listened, but I can't change the past. What I can do is honor Marcus's memory by living fully, refusing to let fear dictate my choices, and sharing my story so that maybe, just maybe, someone else will see the warning signs before it's too late. Daniel gets out in 9 years. I have already started planning what I will do if he tries to find me again. I am not the same terrified woman I was 3 years ago. If he comes looking for me, he will discover that I am no longer prey. I'm a survivor, and I'm ready to fight.